Ooh, bow, bow.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pyda. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howell and Eagle Sports editor Jake Murda Adams.
Did you always
The Happy Hands Club.
The Happy Hands Club. Some say love. Come on, guys. We need to do
John has not seen that video. We confirmed that last week. Or the movie, I mean.
Oh, jeez. Well, I didn't think he's probably into like John Wayne Westerns.
Well, Brendan was trying to trick him into saying a dumb movie, and John goes, a dumb movie, yeah. And he's like, yeah, see? He's like, what are you talking about? And Brendan said, Napoleon Dynamite. He's like, I've never even seen that. And I was like, you were trying to trick him into saying it was a dumb movie. We need to have a movie. We should have a 1-year anniversary party.
24 hours.
I'll have it at my house.
There we go.
On the 75-inch, and we'll watch Napoleon Dynamite.
There we go. I like this.
Yeah. You got to see the wedding scene at the end.
Yeah. I like where his girlfriend from Detroit's playing footsies with him.
Oh, with
and he's got like the old man sandals and socks on.
And she's got her like manicured, like pedicured feet.
And the lip licking that LaFonda and him are doing the entire time is just...
With the milkshakes.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and then when he's going out to a steak dinner with her, and he's got like a black bandana on, like a 6-pound necklace with a big cross on it.
And he's like, LaFonda's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Don't worry, Napoleon. There's somebody out there for you, too.
I gotta watch this. Gotta watch this again at some point.
What's that noise? See, I hear everything. I hear it
It's
all.
a little squeaky noise.
Yeah, it was a little squeaky noise.
It's a funny squeaky sound.
And now we're going to Christmas vacation.
Don't know that
You
one.
couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant.
This is the show we're gonna do today.
Christmas vacation?
I've never seen it. I just said that. I just said that.
Okay, listen. We have to remedy some of these. These are issues.
She wrapped up her damn cat.
Okay. So those are the funnest parts, like in a movie to play, I think, are like the kooky old people. But it's like the aunt. Is it Aunt Edna? And
No, that's the Vacation, the original.
That's right. Who was
Aunt Bethany.
It's Aunt Bethany, and at one point they're at the table to say dinner, to say grace, and they're like, say the blessing, and she's like shaking her head. She doesn't say anything, and he's like, the blessing. And they said grace, and she's like, she died 50 years ago. And he's like, the blessing.
And then she gets up and says the Pledge of
And then
Allegiance.
and then she goes into, and then she's like, play ball.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Yeah.
And
then they all start doing
Randy
it.
Randy Quaid gets up and puts his hand over his heart.
Over his heart. So essentially, they're hosting their family for Christmas. It's hilarious.
He has a car. He can drive. I need to eat so I can take my back pill.
Oh my God.
The in-laws.
Jake, you haven't seen Christmas Vacation?
I can make up for this slightly, maybe not with you guys, but with Mallory. I already did this. We went and saw How to Train Your Dragon on Saturday, which I've never seen the original.
See, you two in these movies you're going to see, it's cute.
I'm married and we need to do stuff every now and then to like get out of the house. There's nothing cute.
But they're it's a kids movie.
Yeah,
isn't it?
most of the movies we go see though are like superhero or Star Wars movies.
True.
We don't really go to the theater for anything other than action movies anymore. Because like if I want to see a movie,
do you see action movies?
Star Wars and Marvel. Like I haven't.
But I mean, like
seen,
Lethal Weapon stuff. Like
that was all. I think the last one came out when I was like a year and a half old.
But I'm talking like when I say action, I mean that
like
kind
Mission.
of action.
I haven't seen any of the recent Mission Impossibles. I haven't seen.
Okay.
I didn't see Top Gun Maverick, but that was also like still
in the movie
COVID-esque.
theater. I saw it twice.
Yeah,
so good. Look
but
at
we
Derek.
saw How to Train Your Dragon, which I've never seen the original, but she's watched so many YouTube like reaction videos over the years to the whole trilogy that I know what the movie's about. I know what the next two are about.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to see it with her because she was really excited to go see this one, and admittedly, that movie's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And that soundtrack's a banger.
Yeah.
That soundtrack's a banger.
It does look like a good movie.
I was even like tearing up during the whole training montage scene because it hits the crescendo of the whole theme, and I was like, "Oh, now I get this. Cool."
Rudy, 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 Rudy.
Pretty much Rudy, but with a panther-esque dragon.
Yeah. No, it does look good.
And I didn't realize, I didn't know who any of the cast was, and so I saw like the dad of the character. I'm like, that's Gerard Butler, but he's doesn't look like him because he's got facial prosthetics on to make him look chunkier because he's a giant Viking dude. And the credits roll later, and it's like, oh, I was right, Gerard Butler, because like I don't watch a ton of Gerard Butler movies, and so I was like, cool, score one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were watching a reaction video to the movie, just like what was different between the original and the new version. And like, yeah, Gerard Butler reprised his role. I was like, wait, okay.
Oh.
Didn't realize he was in the original.
So is it a second?
No, it is almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original movie. They added like 20-something minutes to it to like expand upon a couple things.
Okay.
And Mallory, being the one who knows this movie more than me, said it was a pretty good adaptation. She really liked it. It was as good as the first one. And she liked what they added or changed because it made sense.
I'm trying to remember the last time I was in the movie theater. It's like 10 years ago.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Oz the Great and Powerful.
Really?
The prequel to The Wizard of Oz with James Franco in it.
Yes.
I think that's the last time I was in
Mia Kunis played the Wicked Witch.
Yes.
My Wicked Witch laugh is better than hers. Psh.
I didn't know she was.
You've had a lot of
Wizard
practice.
Oz movie.
I have. Wait, what?
I didn't know she was in a Wizard of Oz movie.
Well, I think it's because of her voice.
Fair.
Because she plays Meg. She's a very distinct voice. So a lot of voice
I know her more from 70s Show, actually.
jobs are, she plays Meg on Family Guy.
Yeah.
She voices, and her voice is so distinct. So she kind of had that raspiness to her. And I think the look, her face too. She has a little bit of an exotic look. But you know that she's, I think, Russian. She speaks full Russian.
I feel like I knew that at one point.
Yeah, I've seen her do it. It's wild.
So you guys haven't gone to see like any Disney kids movies or Pixar movies over the years?
Beth has taken Will.
Okay.
But she took him to see the Peter Rabbit movie when he was like 3 years old. The Mario Brothers movie that came out like 2 years ago.
That was fine.
Yeah.
But she saves time to do that with him when I'm working, like on a Saturday.
Okay.
To just kind of give him something to look forward to.
Gotcha.
Because Dad's not home.
So we had some
Derek.
guests on today.
Absolutely.
How'd those go?
Good.
We'll be jumping into them in a second.
Male Athlete of the Year, Santino Sloboda, and Female Athlete of the Year, Lexie Hames. And I told Lexie at the end of the conversation we had, before today, I mean, I'd interviewed her a few times after covering their games, but she was this dominant pitcher from Seneca Valley, and that's pretty much how I knew her. She really opened up on the show today with the interview, and just felt like I came away from the interview knowing her so much better, just getting to see that side of her outside of the realm of competition. It was really enjoyable and insightful.
Awesome. Well,
and Santino, he actually said, Fred Powell.
yeah.
He's in his 80s, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Former started the program at SRU. Started the program at Slippery Rock High School. Now he's been an assistant for Scott Stoner with Butler Wrestling for years now. And Santino said that the other day he and Fred were on the mat wrestling each other. Santino and Fred Powell. And he's like, yeah, after a few minutes, you could tell he was getting winded. I'm like, I'd get winded walking upstairs here. I mean, Fred's a great guy. He's an awesome guy. And he knows so much about wrestling, so much knowledge about the sport.
A few minutes, he's winded. All of my grandparents made it to their 80s. If I am in my 80s and I can do a quarter of what Fred Powell can do, I will be so happy with the shape that I've kept myself in. Fingers crossed.
So our first of two interviews today is with Lexie Hames. She is just graduated from Seneca Valley. I feel like saying star softball pitcher just doesn't really accentuate exactly what you were able to do with your career. I'm just going to read a few stats that you were able to put up this year. 17-3 record, 279 strikeouts and 117 innings pitched, which is just mind-blowing. And when teams did pitch to you, when they decided to pitch to you, a 487 average and 7 home runs, you have been named our Female Athlete of the Year for the second straight year, and also Pennsylvania Gatorade Softball Player of the Year for the second straight year. Lexie, we appreciate you taking time to come into the studio today. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
So take us back to the beginning. When did you get into softball, and was it, did your mom influence you with that? And did you ever have a chance to get into anything else, or did you want to get into anything else?
So I started playing at a very, very young age. I think it was around 6 or 5 or 6, something like that. And I got into it because my sister started playing, and my mom used to play, in high school and in Penn State, Barron. So, from a very young age, my mom was always trying to get us, it was always basketball and softball. So I played basketball for a while, and I played soccer for a while. And then I also played volleyball for, about 2 years. So I was, bouncing around sports for a little bit, but my heart was always with softball. I actually started pitching because of my sister. She was one of the biggest inspirations for me. She was always like way better than I was at softball, and she was way better at pitching than I was. She was like, I don't know, like 5'10" something when she hit like 6th grade. So, and she was a lefty. So she always was like, she was a powerhouse. She always was pitching really good. And I just wanted to be like her. So I got into pitching because of her. I just wanted to throw like her. I wanted to strike girls out like she did. So, have that control almost and set the tone for the game like she did. So, she was definitely one of my biggest inspirations that even got me into pitching. And then after 8th grade, I kind of just started focusing on softball completely. I didn't play volleyball or basketball or soccer, nothing like that anymore. And I actually moved to national when I was going into my 9th grade year. That fall, I moved into national softball. So from a very young age, I knew that's where I wanted to be. I had a lot of people to look up to, so that's how it started.
So a lot of time over the last, 13 years playing softball, but when did you realize that what you were capable of in softball had a chance to be really, really special, as opposed to just being pretty good?
So it was about the 4th year on my mom's, like, more local, I played for Passion Softball. My mom had the team for about 4 years, and, we go to these bigger tournaments. We were starting to, like, branch out, going to, like, Myrtle Beach and Ocean City, all that stuff. And we started playing these teams that were on the national level, and I was putting up good stats and good numbers against them. So I was like, I had this dream of going Division I, and I didn't really know at that point, there wasn't too many people around here doing that. Going and playing on a national team, you didn't see too many softball players, going to that, Division I level. I think that's changed a lot throughout the past couple of years. Since I was a freshman, you started seeing, girls from near Philadelphia, like the middle of the state. You saw them going to like Maryland and to these bigger D1 schools. And I was like, wow, like that's been my dream this whole time. Like, how do I do that like they did? And so I had the opportunity from a girl around here. She was a catcher at Pine Richland, and she played on the Beverly Bandits. And I've, looked them up, and I was like, oh, they're this huge national team, this big organization, and all these girls are going Division I. So I started, researching a little bit, and then she brought the opportunity. They were like, hey, we need a pitcher. So I switched over that fall of my freshman year, and that's where I started to really see how I compared with these girls like that. They've been playing on this national level for about a year or two, because that's kind of where it starts. Because anything younger than that, it gets hard to do all the travel and all of that. So I, played my first season there, and I was like, wow, like I can compete with these girls. I can be dominant in some of these games. And, that was my biggest goal. Like, I wanted to push myself to see where I stood with everybody else, because I knew that, I was good. Not to like sugarcoat it or anything. Like, I knew I was good, but I knew I could be better. I knew that I could push myself to be better, to better my mental game, to better how I pitch, to how I hit, and my mindset and everything like that. I knew I could push myself way beyond the limits, and that's kind of where I wanted to see where I lined up with these girls, and I wanted to see how far like I could go with talent and work ethic, and how far I could push myself. So once I moved to the national level, then I finally saw like, hey, this goal is achievable. Like I can do this, and I can push myself even further than I thought I could.
The high school game, obviously you had a ton of playing experience by the time you got to Seneca Valley varsity. And there's some obviously really good softball players around here. But at the same time, if you go from team to team, it's not the same type of competition you see in travel ball. So that said, since you were doing so well in those tournaments all over the East Coast, what were your goals specifically in high school when you started at varsity? Because as I said, the high school varsity level, it's not the same level as pitching in Virginia Beach, Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, so I think that playing in national softball helps me come in as a freshman and be as competitive as I was, because I already had the whole mental battle with a freshman coming in, and I'm competing with these seniors and these older girls, and so I really think it helped mentally, as well as be as competitive as I was and put up the stats I did my freshman year. I think national softball really helped with that. But my biggest goal coming into freshman year was just, I was just feeling it out, because I had no idea what high school softball entailed. I didn't know how competitive it was. I didn't know I didn't even know who was in our section. I didn't
You just pitched.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of bad, but I just went in there, and I was just, trying to, our program wasn't too competitive before we got in there. I mean, I don't really know how many times we made it to playoffs. That was the first year my mom was coaching too. So when I came in, she was coming in, and, we had the coach adjustment. And while I was trying to adjust, always, the little coach's kid moment too. So trying to adjust to all those things. So I was just really trying to have fun and play softball, and I wanted to put our program on the map. I knew, deep down, that I had the ability to do that. And, I knew that if, I pushed myself, and I pushed myself to the limits, and I pushed myself past my comfort zone with, my athletic ability, then we could put, this program on the map. We could, set up this program to become, a legacy for the next girl with the same dream I did, to go to the Division I level, and to compete in states and WPIALs, and, have all these goals in mind. But I really came in, and I was just, being myself, adjusting, stepping in the batter's box, taking good swings, and, getting on the mound and trying to do the best that I could and compete the best that I could. And along with, my path of kind of aligning my goals and aligning, how far I want to push myself and achieving this goal of becoming a D1 athlete.
You spoke about, you mentioned your freshman year. You spoke to Jake last week, and he said you had a fun fact about your first WPIAL championship appearance, which was a win. You care to share that with us?
Apart with being naive to the whole high school softball thing, I had no idea the WPIAL championship was a thing. I just thought it was we had to win the game to go to states. That's all I thought it was. I didn't know it was a championship game. My catcher came running out to the dog pile, and I was like, what's going on? We won something? This is cool. Are we getting t-shirts or something that we get to go to states? I had going into WPIALs, I didn't know what kind of deal it was. I didn't know that it was a championship game. I didn't know the importance of it, but we made it and we won. So I honestly had no idea that it was even a championship game. So if that shows you anything about how, I didn't really know anything about high school softball coming into it, I think that shows it pretty well.
You mentioned the getting the states that first year. And, of course, you guys that season got to the state championship game. Now, I know that day your focus was on doing what you needed to do to help bring a state championship back to Seneca Valley. You guys fell a little short. But did you ever think walking off the field that day that would be your one chance to play for a state championship, as it turned out to be?
See, I didn't know that. Our team was so good, so I didn't realize how good we were and, how close we were and how tight-knit we were and what the qualities we had that helped us become a state championship team, because apart from the athletes on the team, it takes so much more than that. So I think that I didn't really realize that. And so next year I was like, oh, like, who are we facing in states this year? And, like, that was really fun and, like, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really realize, like, taking a step back from these past 3 seasons, when we fell short at Whip Mules or, we didn't quite make it to that state championship game again. Really stepping back and seeing, like, those qualities that were different, or, that those missing pieces that we had that the other 3 years that, where we fell short a little bit, either in the state playoff or with Whip Mules. So I think that I never knew it was the first year I was even pitching too. So I was like, I didn't really know, what the next 3 years would be. I was always like, oh, who are we playing in states like next year? Like, this is fun. I feel like freshman year was kind of just, getting the feel of everything and, everything. I didn't really notice the importance of everything. I didn't realize, how much high school softball meant to me as I did going into my sophomore year, junior year, senior year. I didn't really realize, the community or the pride wearing the uniform or all that kind of stuff. So I feel like after freshman year, I finally got a full grasp on everything that, came along with high school softball and, like, what it meant to me and, like, how it influenced, like, even my recruiting process, how I played on the national level and, the influence it had on me.
So you win actually 2 Whitfield titles in your career, that freshman season and your junior season. And you committed to Clemson. You got the shirt on there, headed to South Carolina to continue playing softball there. You're traveling all over the country, but you said that you had to overcome some stress with the sport, and for a while you lost the joy of playing it. Can you talk about how you got into that, and I guess most importantly, how you got out of that?
So I think the biggest thing for me was, the importance of those breaks that you have. So I didn't really step back from the game. I just kept going and going and going. And then my sophomore fall was probably the roughest fall season that I had playing at the national level. I just moved teams and my finger was actually broken. I pitched with a broken finger that entire fall season. So I was already hurt. I wasn't enjoying going to practice because it hurt so bad to throw. And, I wasn't enjoying that as much. And then I had no idea it was broken. But I had some stress with, coaching and in that aspect. It kind of felt like, all the work that I was putting in, all this pain I was going through and everything, and it all essentially felt like, I still wasn't good enough. I still wasn't living up to these expectations of, this coach. I wasn't succeeding the way that this coach wanted me to, or, like it was a really hard mental battle. So I was already going through, the broken finger, all of that. And then, on top of it, I was having a mental battle, with myself. So I didn't really know how to handle that because, I'd never experienced it before.
15 years old at the time. You're a kid. So.
Yeah. I was like 15 years old. My mom's always been my coach. My last team was great. We kind of just all like went our separate ways after that season. It was nothing like negative or anything like that. So, hopping on a different team, new team, new coach, new atmosphere. And, it put me through something I've never been through before. And without that, I feel like, though, that I wouldn't be the softball player I am today, have the fight that I do today, or the drive or the work ethic, because I feel like that only drove, like, stepping away from softball and realizing that, there's so many different things off the field that go into my play on the field, like mentally and physically. Like I definitely had to step back and reflect. So because playing and, you know, going through that and, you know, just keep pitching, keep lifting, keep hitting, it wasn't helping at all. It was only making the whole situation worse. So I stepped back for about a month or two, and, you know, that's when I found out I had, like, my finger was broken. So that put me on a 3-month break. And during that 3-month break, I wasn't allowed to play softball because it was my right hand and I was casted, you know. So I couldn't play at all. I couldn't pitch at all. I could only lift and stuff. So that time, like, really gave me, you know, the space I needed from the sport and who I was on the field to realize who I was, you know, off the field, and, you know, that I'm so much more than just a softball player, because I actually started filling out recruiting, you know, questionnaires at this time. And it was like, what do you do outside of softball? I think that's the biggest question college coaches want to know. Who are you outside of softball? What do you do outside of softball? And the only thing that I could answer was I couldn't think of anything. I lifted outside of softball, but I didn't know who I was. I didn't have that identity, you know, of myself outside of the field. So I think when my identity in softball was getting so confused and that's who I was and all I thought I was, you know, I didn't really know how to handle that. So, like, taking a step back and realizing, you know, who I was and the identity I have and the value I have as a person outside of the sport, outside of the athletic space, all of that, I could finally, like, my mental health was so much better, and I could, you know, be a lot stronger for the situations I was going through on the field and inside of the sport. So I felt like, you know, those couple years, I really realized that, you know, I wasn't all softball. Softball doesn't define me. Softball isn't my identity. It's a huge part of me, you know. That's, you know, one of the biggest things that shaped me, and, you know, mentored me through and taught me so many lessons, but that's not who I was. I'm somebody else outside of that.
Well, speaking of outside of softball, do you know what you're going to be studying at Clemson?
I'm studying business finance. So
Do you know where you would like to go with that degree? I mean, after everything is done as far as softball?
So I really want to be a financial advisor. So
Hey, she can help me out with my money.
Yeah.
I don't know if she can do any worse. She can't do any worse than me.
Yeah, I'm going to keep your contact info.
I wanted to get this from you because obviously you pitched, and teams can't hide from you when you're pitching. They either go up and they take their best shot, and usually they would lose, but they can run and hide from you, and you learned this the hard way when you're in the batter's box. How much did you enjoy hitting? Did you enjoy it as much as pitching?
I love hitting. You know, when I was getting walked a little bit this year,
I think 40 intentional walks. Yeah.
a little more than a little bit, but when I was getting walked this year, you know, I was just trying to, you know, get on base for my team. Essentially, like, that's what hitting is. You know, you're trying to get on base, you're trying to score runs. But when you can't, like, score runs, you can't hit, and you can't, you know, do that. It kind of, you know, hurts a little bit. It makes you a little bit frustrated because, you know, you work so hard on that craft of hitting and, you know, all the other things that go into hitting, like mentality and all that stuff. So you work so hard on that kind of stuff, and then you don't even get to use it in the game, and it kind of, you know, it gets a little frustrating. But, you know, I trusted the girls behind me, and I knew that they would get the job done, and we did that for most of the season. We fell a little short during Whitfields, but that's okay. I was kind of hoping that Tina would let me hit just once, because it would be the last time that we would play each other, you know, win or loss, whoever won, whoever lost, you know, because 6A, we only take one person. But that was the last time we were playing each other, and, you know, I was hoping that, you know, maybe she'd give me at least one chance, but and didn't really work out that way. It got a little frustrating, but I knew that, you know, I was getting a job done either way. I was putting a base runner on, and, you know, trusting the girls behind me that they were going to get the job done. So, you know, it does, you know, get a little irritating, but, you know, at the same time, you know, we had a lot of trust in each other throughout the season. I think that was a big thing. We had, like, we played for each other. We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. We knew, the mentality each of the girls had, and, we knew where everybody's head was at and where everybody was at, skill-wise, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a big thing of why we got back to the WPIAL Championship again this year, because we had a tough game against Norwin, but our team really came together, and I think that, the trust that we have in each other, especially with, me getting walked, I can't really do much with that, except for, go to first base. So it gave, an opportunity to another girl to, get bases and run the bases, all that kind of stuff. So it gave the opportunity to the girls behind me to score those big runs, live in those big moments. So it does make me a little bit proud that way, because a lot of those girls, they got the job done.
It definitely is it's a frustrating sign of respect, but a sign of respect nonetheless.
Yeah.
When, WPIAL Championship game and the opposing coach refuses to have her pitcher pitch to you. So it's a feather in your cap, even though it was very frustrating in the moment. But your mom and other coaches have given us, regarding your play, some holy crap stories. So what's your best holy crap moment about yourself? When during your career, whether high school, travel ball, whatever, when did you surprise yourself the most?
I think when I made the USA 18U team, I think that was a big, holy crap moment. Because I always saw, the U15, they were traveling to Japan and all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh my goodness, how can I do this? This is a dream. And then, I went to the first tryout, and they put me through the second tryout, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Even though I got to the second tryout, this is still really cool. Well, we get to the second tryout, and then I get an email that I made it. I was like, oh my goodness, holy crap. I got to put on the USA uniform, the same one the big girls were wearing in the Olympics. And I went back again this past year, and they redid the aging, so I was a little bit too old for the team this year. So the next time I'll have the opportunity is deeper into college, after college, that kind of thing. So for the older girl team, but it was still a really cool opportunity. We got to work with all of the softball role models, like Rachel Garcia, and Montana Fouts, all those big names, all those big pitchers. Canada, she was huge this year, but we got to work with all of those big role models that we looked up to, and I thought that was such an amazing opportunity. And never in a million years did I ever think I was gonna get a 6-foot box filled with USA gear and a bag and bats and cleats and all that kind of stuff. Never in a million years did I ever think the sport would take me that way and give me that opportunity. But it was an honor playing for my country in the World Cup, and just having that opportunity, and getting to have that experience is once in a lifetime. So I'm grateful that the sport, that's where it took me, and opened that opportunity for me. But that was definitely a holy crap moment.
I don't need an exact number here, but can you give us an idea of how many colleges contacted you and said, hey, come pitch for us, please?
I had around 43 offers.
Oh yeah. Okay, hold on. That's the applause button again. You're getting the applause button twice.
On September 1st, I had the September 1st, of my dreams. I had an amazing coach. On Carolina Elite, I played for them for about 2 years, and then I'm playing with some of my roommates now, that are going to play with me on, on the Clemson team and within the Clemson program. So, I had an amazing 2 years with that team. That coach, she truly changed the sport for me, and, my perspective on a lot of things. And, I'm so very thankful that I had a coach like that. Honestly, she was like another mom to me at that point. There would be weekends where we'd sit at, her house down in South Carolina for 4 hours and just talk to coaches and, communicate with them, all that kind of stuff. And she truly gave me the September 1st, of my dreams. So, that 1 a.m. or 12:01 call was real. That was definitely stressful. I was actually at the Morgan Wallen concert that night. We didn't get out till 12 o'clock. So literally I was running from the stadium into my car, trying to answer phone calls at the same time. So that was, that was a little stressful, but healthy stress at the same time.
when you came up as a freshman, I mean, I heard story. Hey, Seneca Valley's got this freshman pitcher. Her name's Lexie. She's really good. But to see you, take advantage of that opportunity, starting pitcher for a varsity team as a freshman and do so well, but then, on top of that, have great sophomore, junior, senior seasons. It was fun to watch, and we've covered a lot of athletes here in a lot of different sports, but watching you pitch and hit when you were allowed to hit was a big thrill for me. I got to tell you, over the last 4 years, it was incredibly enjoyable. It's a job, but sometimes you walk away saying, "Man, I just got paid for watching a girl strike out 17." I mean, it's fun. There's times when we do what we do, it's our job, but it's really enjoyable. And I can honestly say, every time I watched you pitch, I came away thinking that. So,
thank you.
You had a great career, and good luck in college, and we appreciate you joining us here today.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Lexie Hames, Butler Eagles Female Athlete of the Year, ×2, and Pennsylvania Gatorade Softball Player of the Year.
Yes, amazing. Can I ask you one question?
Of course.
A friend of mine, her daughter is really into competitive softball. She's young. What would you say to the young girls who are coming up in the sport? You talked about your mental health, and I really appreciate that you did that. I think that's important to touch on. But what advice would you give them?
My advice is, keep following your dream, because everybody has a different path. If your dream is to become a D1 athlete, work hard no matter what anybody says, no matter what your teammates are saying, no matter what the coaches are saying. You have those people surrounding you all the time. It gets a little hard to, you tunnel vision it and, focus on that dream, focus on the love you have for the game. Even if you don't have a dream of going to play D1 softball, that love for the game that you have is more than enough. That is what you need to rely on, even through practices, even through games, even through everything, because there's more. We play a game of failure, so you're gonna fail to succeed. Because the way I like to explain it to the younger girls is, if you have a 400 batting average, you're doing great, right? But if you get a 40% on a math test, is that a very good score? That's
yeah, for us it probably is, but yeah.
But
we're not going to Clemson, so
you play this game of failure, but you love it. That's how I always viewed it, because somebody told me that, and that's when I finally put it into perspective. I'm failing, but I'm succeeding. This game is, if you love it, then you have to rely on that love you have and that internal gratitude you have. And, this space is, the softball community has grown so much. It has become such a hub for female empowerment, and I love that. That's what I'm always trying to push, because, this is a space that's completely female. You don't have, baseball's a separate sport. With basketball, it's...
Sorry, Derek. You're not included in this. Girl power. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Lexie, go on.
But, even with basketball, it's male and female, same sport, just, different gender, that kind of thing. But softball is completely female. And, this space is to prosper that female empowerment. I actually had the opportunity to do a camp for my senior project where I got to have a talk with these girls about how special that is, and, how to continue spreading that and to continue to uplift, that idea. So that's one of my biggest things. That's even one of the things I play for, because I like to be represented by this space. So, to the little girls, just keep following your dream. Keep the love you have for the game. Keep, loving every at bat, love every pitch you throw, love coming to practice. I know you're not going to want to some days, and that's completely fine. Sometimes you need a day off. Sometimes you need a mental break, and that's okay. But internally you still love the game, then keep playing it. Don't let anything else influence you.
Well said. Thank you.
What a treat. What a treat. I mean, honestly, I interviewed you after a couple games over the last few years, but, before today, it was Seneca Valley, this dominant pitcher from Seneca Valley. That's what I knew Lexie as. Now I get to see a little bit more of the, the person, and it was really enjoyable. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we just said goodbye to Seneca Valley's Lexie Hames. She was our female athlete of the year, and we still say hello to Santino Sloboda, the incoming senior at Butler High School. 50-1 this past season, first in the Whitbill, first at regionals, third in the state, and he has been voted as our male athlete of the year. Santino, you're actually our first repeat interview here on the podcast. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So how has the off-season treated? What have you done since March?
So after wrestling season, I kind of took like a little 2-week break, and then I wrestled at Virginia Beach over Memorial Day weekend. So I was going like 5 days a week until then, and then I broke my nose down there, so I had to take like 2 weeks off. That was a little rough, but other than that, I've just been hanging out with my friends, hanging out with my girlfriend, not doing too much.
I got to ask you, a sport that's as physical and as demanding as wrestling, what's the worst injury you've ever had?
When it comes to actually wrestling, I broke my nose twice, but like I broke my elbow one time. I kind of landed on it weird, and then I broke my other arm, but I just got landed on by a bunch of kids. That wasn't actually wrestling, so that was the most rough, but it wasn't actually wrestling.
That had to take you away from the mat for a while, right? I mean,
yeah, 3 months.
So you told me in the interview for the Male Athlete of the Year story that 50 wins, very good season, but that one loss is what kind of sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you weigh that against a season that included so much accomplishment? How do you kind of balance that out with the one loss that still kind of sticks with you?
50 wins, 1 loss was a good season, and it's kind of hard when you lose one match like that, especially when it's so late into the season. It's like one of the most important matches of the year, quarterfinals at states. It's kind of hard to, like, especially when I was actually wrestling, it's hard to bounce back because usually I'm not good with that. Like, I would lose a match and start tanking losses. Like, my sophomore year, I did that. I lost 3 in a row after I lost in the semis. But when it gets to actually being done with the season, it's kind of hard because the last 5 months of your life, you're a wrestler, and that's all that it was, and that's kind of over with after that, and you kind of have to move on. But that loss, I kind of used it to just keep wanting to get better. And when I went down to Virginia Beach, I was like, it was a lot more fun because I wrestled all that time. Just like, it was kind of like a vengeance. After losing that match, it just wanted me to get a lot better.
Revenge tour, kind of. Huh?
Yeah.
So what's your training routine like at this point of the year? We're talking everything between running, lifting, just being in the gym. What's it like now for you?
Honestly, it's just like 4 to 5 days of practice. That's pretty much all that it is. I don't really work out much, so just pretty much practice.
So managing weight is obviously a huge component of wrestling. What's your favorite cheat meal when you allow yourself to kind of go for a day? What do you go after food-wise?
So I don't really have the best diet to begin with, but after like every tournament, I'll eat like a bacon cheeseburger and fries and like a Coke, no matter what, like any tournament. That's like my go-to.
Speaking of weight, 121 is a sophomore, right?
116 as a sophomore, and then 127 as a junior.
This past year. What do you think next year? Are you going to be at 127 again, or are you going to move up?
I'll probably be 133, and then that turns to 135 after Christmas. So that's what I'm planning on.
You played a bunch of different sports growing up. I know that from talking to you for the Male Athlete of the Year story. Which one, other than wrestling, did you have the most passion for?
Definitely soccer. I kind of wish that it panned out, but I was a lot better at wrestling, and I went to Catholic school, so the competition was obviously not that great when I was playing soccer, but I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun, but wrestling seemed to be my route.
So what position in soccer?
I was like forward.
So you got to score the goals.
Yeah, I just ran everywhere.
Is regarding the preparation and all the training it takes to be good, to be as good as you are at wrestling, is there anything that you literally dread? You're like, it's kind of a necessary evil. This is what I have to do to, give myself the best chance to win on the mat, but it's something that you really don't look forward to doing.
So I drive to Quest 3 days a week, which is in like Washington. It's like sometimes it's like an hour and 25-minute ride, and it's terrible sometimes because sometimes it's raining, the roads are wet, and I'm tired. I don't want to drive, but the competition down there is really good, and I'll take like Case Chop, Nick Savannah, and Sunstone are all kids on my team, and so it's fun, but the ride is dreadful, and it's like 3 days a week, so that's not very fun.
So it would be great if it was just right down the road for you.
That'd be amazing, but it's not the case.
79 can be, especially when there's construction.
Yeah.
So wrestling tournaments are a lot of waiting around. I mean, you know that we find that out from covering them. Which tournament or gym is your favorite to sit around and wait in, and why?
I hate to say it, but it's got to be Cannon Mac, just because where we always sit, you can kind of look down across like the whole mat and you can see everybody wrestling. And I've done pretty good there the past couple of years. So it's been a lot of fun when I go down there.
So when it comes to wrestling, who has been your biggest influence, either personally or I guess wrestling, either way?
I'd probably say Coach Powell, just because there's no one else in the world his age that's out there on the mat like he is. Like last week at Legacy, he was down there, like he was actually wrestling with me. Like he got tired after a little bit, but obviously that's going to happen with his age, but it was crazy. Like he was going hard.
Wow, Fred Powell. Started the program at SRU way back when. Then he started the high school program at Slippery Rock. Now he's one of Scott Stoner's assistant coaches at Butler. So he was actually in action on the mat.
Yeah, he was going hard with me. He was like clubbing me. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
What's clubbing?
It's like you take a hand and you just like hit him in the head as hard as you can, pretty much. Sets up stuff.
Sorry, Derek. I just was like, I need to know what that is.
Honestly, I didn't feel
aggressive.
comfortable answering that question myself.
You kind of looked at me. Okay. Sorry.
So I asked this to Lexie because, you know, as involved as you are in wrestling, that's softball for her. Is there anything other than just staying in shape, training, that you got scheduled this summer that you're really looking forward to?
I'm going on vacation on a cruise to the Bahamas. I think it's the end of July, so hopefully that will be fun.
I would think. I mean, Bahamas. I could see myself on a big ship down there.
Did
for a
you just
week.
say hopefully? I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a great time.
We'll see.
Yeah.
He might be taking out the ship's bartender down there with a wrestling move. Ted Lang. Ted Lang from Love Boat. So who do you on your team? I guess this past season, who was your practice partner?
Nick Savannah. He was he started at 116 and then went down to 109.
Okay, what do you, I know? I believe he made our all-star team as well. What are your thoughts on him? Because he's only going to be a junior, I believe.
Yeah, so his freshman year he came in. He was a little soft, but I wrestled with him pretty much every day my sophomore year, and then every day my junior, and he's gotten a lot better, and he comes to Quest with us all the time. So he's made some leaps and bounds, and I think next year he'll do super good. So
I would think wrestling against you in practice, a guy can only get better, right? And he did. He had a really good sophomore season. He made our all-star team. Outside of wrestling, what are you most excited about as your senior year approaches?
Well, honestly, my schedule next year for classes shouldn't be that hard, so I'm just excited. I'll be able to take in more than I was this year. I'll just be able to have a good time with my friends, and I'm excited. I like to see kids on the team too improve. Like some of the kids from my freshman year, or even my sophomore year, they were not that great, and then last year they did pretty good. So I just like to see everybody improve, and hanging out with my friends would be fun next year.
I thought he was just going to say graduation. That's the one
that
he's
would be
looking
nice
forward to most. So you're headed to Pitt.
Yep.
What sold you on Pitt, and were there any other schools that were really close to getting you to wrestle there?
So at the end, it was pretty much Lehigh, West Virginia, and Pitt, and it came down to how far away I was from the colleges. And so it was West Virginia and Pitt, really, and I was making, like, pros and cons lists. It was kind of tough for me. But it just came down to, like, the kids on the team. You could tell a lot from their lifestyles. And West Virginia, the kids are obviously a little bit more crazy, and I don't really live, like, a crazy lifestyle. So I felt I fit more at Pitt, and the coaches are awesome there. So that was pretty much it.
I know you got a year left before you head there, but do you know what you might want to study there?
I'm thinking marketing now, honestly. I didn't really know for a while because it was more just like, where do I want to wrestle at? But there's more to it than that. So I kind of think about that for a while, but I think that's what it will be.
Lexie Haynes was just on here, and she was going to be a financial advisor, and you're in marketing. Hey, I think we could hire these two guys, both of them, honestly. Come on.
Oh, you're in marketing?
He's going to be.
Do you want some internship time this summer? Do you like social media? I mean, you can make some money for, yeah. Sorry, you're going to get me going, Derek. If you're talking about marketing, I need someone. So, okay, yeah.
Intern. Next season, Santino, you have a chance to do some big things when it comes to wrestling. Not that you haven't already, but you have a chance to break the county wins record. Right now, Seneca Valley graduate Alejandra Herrera Rondon holds it at 175. 176 is definitely within your reach. Obviously, another Whitfield title, and up to this point, an elusive state title. What accomplishment that could be out there for you as a senior would mean the most to you?
So obviously the win records, it's kind of crazy to me because I literally had to be like 11 or 12 years old talking about it. Like people probably thought I was crazy talking about it because 160 was like an unreachable number. And honestly, I think every season I've had so far, if I just get that amount of wins, I should be able to reach that. And Alejandro, I looked up to him my whole life. Like when I was younger, we used to go to the same club, and he would win states every single year. He was insane. And so that's even crazy to think about, though. We're about to be close to the same number, hopefully. And state title, that's honestly the ultimate goal because I've wrestled like pretty much my whole life, and that's like the one thing that I couldn't get. So that would be like the best thing that could happen.
128-7 is his record right now, varsity wrestling. 128-7.
Okay, will you break that down for me? Because I don't know.
135 bouts. He's won 128 and lost 7.
He's won 128 of 135.
Yep.
We're doing that again. It's applause.
So before we let you go, I asked you this question for the story, and I wanted you, our viewers and listeners, to get this. When you started wrestling, you actually hated it.
Yeah, I don't think I was the biggest fan.
So, number one, what didn't you like about it back then?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really remember. I just know that I liked soccer more, to be honest. I think there's so many other sports that I was like, I don't think. If you asked me back then what was the one I would stick with, I definitely wouldn't have said wrestling.
So, what was it that kind of changed your mind about the sport?
I think that I started winning matches, to be honest.
And you started going to tournaments all over the place.
Uh-huh.
You go to national tournaments and place like 4th or 5th, and you're like, man, if I put a little bit more work into this.
Yeah, and then turned out pretty good.
So, who on your team this past season, who would be the guy? I mean, obviously, you've got to be a competitor to get on the mat, but who's the one guy who you would say has the craziest mentality when he's in that competition mode?
That's tough. I don't know if you know Sullivan Stutz. He was our 120-pounder.
Sure.
He gets out there. He has his number one move. It's a headlock. And if he gets a headlock locked up, you're getting pinned for sure.
Even Fred Powell?
Maybe.
I did ask Lexie this question. If I can ask you, what advice would you give to any young wrestlers that are just getting started in the sport? I mean, for you in particular, what was the moment when you did fall in love, getting a little deeper into that with wrestling, and what would you say to them to continue moving forward?
So my dad pushed me a lot when I was younger. Like there was some days where I'd be going to practice crying because I didn't want to go. But ultimately, those days are the days that help you get better. And as you get older, you'll start to like it a lot more, and you'll fall in love with it after a while. But just stay the course, and you'll do good.
And just win, baby, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
just
what changed
win.
it for Santino. He
Yeah.
started winning.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
Yep.
Santino Sloboda, male athlete of the year for Butler Eagle. Is that updated? Because I know I lost
can't
last
answer
week.
that
It
question.
should be.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 0-2 now in substitute stump Derek.
Yeah, I mean, the last one I answered, I got wrong.
Brendan asked me a question I had no chance
that
of
is
answering, and John actually got it. So John's
That's
got
why
half
I gave
a point.
him. That's why I gave him 1-1. I gave him the point. Well, John answered it. He didn't know that we took a break.
Yeah.
So then John just said the answer, and
he
then
got
looked
it.
at Brendan. He's like, "Was that it?" And Brendan's like, "Yeah, that was it."
But I wouldn't have had a chance to answer that question, so
Yeah.
it was good. I was gonna get a no-for on that one. All right, so last week we had a hockey team win a second consecutive Stanley Cup title, the Florida Panthers, which makes it 2 Florida teams that have done this in the last 6 years, I think it is. So I'm giving you a little bit of a hint here. Can you name? I will just ask for 6 of the 8 franchises that have won consecutive Stanley Cups since 1967. I'm doing this like post original 6 because it was a lot harder or a lot easier.
Original
back then.
6.
Yeah. So since 1967, when the league expanded to 12 teams, name 6 of the 8 franchises that have gone back to back.
Okay. The Devils.
No. You got to name 6, so it's okay. You got one.
Well,
you got 8 guesses. You got 8 guesses.
Could
So
have
you got
swore the
6.
Devils won 2 straight in the 90s. Penguins.
Penguins got one of them.
Red Wings.
Red Wings are 2.
The Oilers.
Oilers.
The Islanders.
The Islanders.
The Broad Street Bullies, the Flyers.
The first to do it.
Flyers, 74 and 75, I believe.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Panthers.
There you go.
The Lightning.
You got another one.
Let me see if I can get the other
See if you can finish it off.
one.
Derek.
Say the Bruins.
Bruins have not. Canadiens.
Ah, the Canadians.
So you got it anyway.
You
Took
got
you
7.
7 guesses to get 6 teams. That's all you need to do. 1 point though. You don't get 6.
That's fine. Considering I did miss on my first guess.
Brendan's not going to be happy with me that I gave you a layup. Oh well. Brendan's not here.
I thought those Marty Brodeur teams of the mid-90s won 2 straight. I guess they didn't.
It's a slow period for us. Brendan's on vacation. Hopefully he hasn't drowned in the ocean yet. We haven't heard word, so I'm going to assume he's alive. To kind of wrap things up today after a busy day of interviews that Derek was so nice to handle in my stead, some upcoming events to watch. We've got the 50th anniversary of the Butler Road Race on Saturday. Derek, you're going to be covering that. Mm-hmm. We have the Allegheny A's, formerly the Butler Blue Sox until this year, are going to be facing the Iron Bucks at Holman Park. So it's going to be the former team's return home for the first time on Monday next week. And then we got the big Butler Fair, 4th of July festivities all around the county and stuff like that. Not sports related, but still a big thing going on this summer. Derek, my question to you, anything interesting you're looking forward to, either of those or something else coming up this summer?
Anytime you're covering something, you kind of put some thought into, number one, if you've covered it before, and I have covered the Butler Road Race before, probably 4 or 5 times. And there are years where it's a nice, it's in the morning. So there's years where it's a nice, 65-degree day.
Mm-hmm.
Nice running weather. There are also years where I've been at Diamond Park waiting for those finishers to come across, where even though it's only, 20 after 9, 9:30 in the morning, it's already like mid-70s and very humid. And I'm uncomfortable standing there waiting for these runners to come in. I can't imagine running 5 miles.
And that was last year. Last year was 70-something and muggy.
Oh, yeah, it's the 2K and the 5 mile. Those are the 2 races you can enter. I think there's also a kids walk, but obviously as far as results go, the 2K and the 5 mile. And in years past when I covered it, there's a lot of times where I'll say, how did you find out about this event? And it's like all through a friend. And how many times have you run it before? This is my first time running it. And what were you hoping to do? I was just hoping to finish, and here they end up winning. So, to come into an event where, somebody's just kind of participating to participate and they end up winning, which has been the case in years past. It's, a cool story to get that, what are your thoughts on, because there's a lot of people that compete in the Butler Road Race, a lot of people. So, winning it isn't exactly, it takes a good day and a good time to win those events. And talking to the people afterwards is always enjoyable, and I will be there Saturday. I did want you have on the list here the alligator. So let me get this straight. The A's in this league actually have a town or a name in front of it, but the Major League A's we don't have any.
Nope.
Where are they playing their home games this year?
Was it down in Pine Richland, I think it was?
No, I mean the A's in Major League Baseball.
Sacramento,
so
the AAA facility.
Why can't they be called the Sacramento A's for one season?
I don't. John Fisher.
The California
MLB.
A's, the West Coast A's. I mean, it just sounds like a little league team that lost its sponsor.
Well, yeah, they kind of have. They're just the franchise. I do have to break it to you. It will bring water. It's going to be uncomfortably humid according to AccuWeather with a high of 81. So it'll be cooler than that at 9 a.m. But it's going to be sticky as heck.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. That is just the worst running conditions. When it's humid, it's just brutal.
And we do have in Harrisville, we have a community day, which usually is on July 4th every year. But this year, I guess just because the July 4th holiday kind of butts up against the weekend, July 4th is on Friday. The community day in Harrisville is on Saturday the 5th. And it's small. I mean, Harrisville, it's a small town, but my son still looks forward to it. He's got the, there's a few kiddie rides, but some bigger rides. And you go, and I think you get something like 20 tickets for $10. And, for the bigger rides, it takes 2 or 3 tickets to ride. And they got a bouncy house, like a huge bouncy house. And he looks forward to that. And the food, of course, the fried dough, the fried Oreos. I mean, I'm going to be taking about 5 years off my life there, but I've done that for 10 straight years. So I'm surprised I'm still living, actually. But, yeah.
What's your carnival food? You have to pick one.
Funnel cake.
Funnel cake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good.
only because I'm picking one. If I could pick 5, I'd pick 5. If I could pick one, it would be the funnel cakes.
I didn't get to ask you this last week. I forgot to put this on the notes for today. Without giving away any spoilers, I asked John and Brendan about this, but we have the top 25 athletes, male, female coaches, and teams coming up this special project later in July. So without giving away anything right now, what were your thoughts on going through this? And are you excited about this, or are you scared about this? We've been joking about it in the office for weeks. So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on when you gave us the sheets to vote, it was incredibly tough because you're looking at some of these names or some of these teams for the top 25 teams, and you're like, I got down to the point where we're voting 25 for each, and I'd get down to 30, and I'm looking at the list of the names or the teams that accomplished so much. You're like, I still have to take 5 off of here. I still have to cross out 5 of these incredible athletes, 5 of these incredible teams, incredible coaches. And it was tough. It was tough. And I know there's going to be people who, say, man, how could you leave this person off or this team off? Those conversations are inevitable when you do something like this. But I enjoy the fact that we're doing this because it's a perfect time to do it. It's 2025, and it's the top 25 in 4 different categories. So I did a lot of research for it, and I hope people can at least appreciate the time and effort it took us to come up with this, even if they don't agree with the entire list, which nobody's going to, but that's fine. That's fine.
John made a comment too that it was, I'm paraphrasing or kind of rephrasing it a little bit for him, but basically he had fun. It was a trip down memory lane for him. Was it similar for you? You've covered almost every single one of these athletes on that list. You started just after 2000, so we didn't get some of the early ones, but was this were you having some moments like, oh man, I remember this, or I remember this thing about this player or this team or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I one of the teams that was on the nomination list was the 2000 Karn City girls basketball team. So I missed them because I didn't start until 2002, but I'm going through some of those names like, for Mars football, Bill Bear, Brad Mueller, for some of the basketball, Jency Rhodes, who played at Slippery Rock and ended up on the U.S. Olympic handball team. I mean, played basketball at Vanderbilt. I mean, it's like, what else can the girl do? Handball, yeah, there's a U.S. Olympic handball team, and she was on it. So it just also made me think, man, it's one thing to be great in a sport in high school. You go on to college and you do it, but then even after college, she was able to kind of branch off into this completely other sport and excel at it. I mean, she was on the Olympic team. So, yeah, it was a trip down memory lane for me as well, and makes me feel kind of old, to be honest with you. When I think back to Brad Mueller was a senior my first fall here, and that was the year that he helped Mars get to the Whitfield championship game in football, ran for over 2,000 yards, including and this still blows my mind, there was a 3-game stretch that year where he rushed for 1,000 yards in a 3-game stretch. And he was a stud in track too, won 2 state titles in track, played football at Boston College, and actually ended his career at SRU. He had 1 year of eligibility left, came back to SRU and played there. So I do have to ask you, though, of all of us, you're the latest one to get here. You've been here basically a year. When you were reading through these accomplishments, I mean, it was kind of I'm sure you're going to keep these lists just as a reference.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a, who's who among great athletes in Butler County history, at least the last 25 years. So I'm sure you learned a lot just by reading those lists.
Oh, I mean, a ton. I mean, the whole process started to bring people behind the scenes just a little bit. We first kind of I first brought this idea to you guys in January, and then around April, I emailed all the ADs in the county and said, hey, we're doing this project without giving you too much detail. Can you help us nominate people? We know John and Derek are going to be able to handle a lot of this, but they're going to forget someone. They're going to miss someone. Or you guys just might think that there's someone worth nominating that maybe we disagreed with on first blush, but we'll guess, we'll look at it closer and be like, oh, crap. So for me, I knew going in that I was behind the 8 ball more than anyone else. Now, I could not spend enough time to read through every story that we had in archives and whatnot, just to that amount of homework would have been not humanly possible. So the best that I could do is rely on the ADs and you guys, ask some questions, try to pull up some stories where I could. The one nice thing is almost all the athletes especially went on to play in college, and most of those college bios still exist. So I could go in and fill in some gaps there, whether it was something that an AD sent and I was like, okay, well, what else did they do? And I could find the info there, or just teach me something. So it did, it was overwhelming too at the same time, because it was so much information I was trying to funnel through in 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, that I couldn't process all of it. You just try to compartmentalize bit by bit, but it was definitely enjoyable, crash course on the county sports history, even if it's just recent history. Because I've heard about that 2000 Carn City team. You guys have mentioned them a few times. I've known Scott Stoner's been coaching since the 90s. Fred Powell's been coaching since the dawn of time. These things that you guys talk about in the office periodically that I'll just kind of pick up on. Now I'm starting to either fill in some gaps on those people or adding new names and new information as well. So it was definitely cool. This is a fun exercise for me.
I think, obviously there were athletes, coaches, and teams who were nominated that will not end up making the final list. We could go 26 through 50 and still have a pretty darn good list. There's only so many people that are going to be recognized, but a lot of really good athletes, coaches, and teams are not going to make the list. That's just the way it goes. When you're trying to come up with the best of the best, some really accomplished people and teams are going to be left off.
But you know what? That's what the Butler County Hall of Fame is for.
There you go.
They'll be able to fill in our gaps in the coming years. Well, I think that's it in this weird co-hosting situation switcheroo that we just did today. Me hosting for Derek, or alongside Derek for the first time. We'll be back next week with the Spring All-Stars for Butler County, talking about that and reacting to some of that news.
And, of course, the return of Mr. Howell.
We miss him so much.
We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast, and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.